this morning, because right now it is night in Canada.
Okay.
But he has sent to me some messages here. Let me share with you. Then you give me the idea. If you can do with him, then you let me know.
May I ask you before you're gonna send it, because what a waste of time. When you were talking to your buyer in Canada, did he flew to Congo or did he flew to Uganda, or where he is right now?
For him, he's in Canada. He never came to Uganda, by the way, for buying anything. Because I was dealing with him on copper ore and then lithium. We
I
used
see.
to meet in Dar es Salaam.
I see.
But now this time, he has told me he wanted gold.
Okay. But he's asking CIF, isn't it?
Yeah, he's asking CIF.
To me, it wouldn't work because do you understand what is the meaning of CIF? Cost, insurance, and freight only.
Yes.
But how about paying the gold? The country would not give certificate of clearance unless the government see that the buyer did pay the property. Gold is the property of a particular country. So that buyer wouldn't meet the criteria if you're gonna connect me to the buyer. He wouldn't meet the criteria at all. He's just wasting my time. My time is very precious.
I understand.
It wouldn't work. Most of the buyer, I'll tell you so that you will not be used by this crook buyer. I can see that this buyer, he wanted to get the gold in order for him to resell it by himself and then get the profit. What happened to the poor seller in Africa? And he worked so hard mining gold under the heat of the sun, and the crook buyer wanting CIF, and then when he gonna sell it, he get handsome profit. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at all. I can consider him.
What is your price? I
Our
want to connect someone in Italy.
Okay, our selling price less 8%. You did not pay attention. You visit my platform, but you didn't read. Next time, I want you to read.
Yeah.
You have to read it, because I would not keep on repeating and repeating, because the full corporate offer is already on my platform. I put everything, the taxes, necessary requirement that the buyer has to comply.
True.
I have the buyer from Asia. He did comply. He showed his business registration. He showed that he has $1 million proof of fund, a bank statement. That is the kind of buyer we are only want to deal. Buyer that wasting your time and my time, he wouldn't meet the criteria if you're gonna connect me to the buyer. So don't waste my time, because I'm going to reject him. So what you have to do, you go back and read. Then if you want to provide the information of the buyer, and you have to bring it to Wilhelmina and create a group chat, I will interview your buyer.
It's okay then. It's okay.
You understand now?
I get you very well.
Because I have been rejected buyers, thousands of them since 2011.
Sorry.
And most of the joker broker, they hates my guts. You must remember. They don't like me.
I know.
You know. They don't like Wilhelmina.
Yeah.
They don't like.
Yeah.
So what you have to do, you go back and read and listen to my video. I want you to understand that this is a real business. This is not a joke business. Yeah.
That's very true. What's your name?
You already saw my platform. My name is Wilhelmina. My goodness, you guys. You don't know? You are.
It's okay then.
My goodness, you guys. Yeah, that's why when the person come to me and they don't introduce themselves, I call you guys a joker broker. This is not a joke business. You already been to my platform. You should know who am I. You saw the picture. You saw who am I. You saw my name. And you got my number. You added me on WhatsApp. You should know who is Wilhelmina. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So
I'll get back to you.
All right. Thank you, Chris, and thank you very much. My goodness, these people. I just finished interviewing this broker. All right. He found me on my on my platform, and he doesn't know who am I and why he come to me on WhatsApp and added me. And then he asked, "Who am I?" My goodness, this person. Mhm. Guys, if you're just wasting my time, you wouldn't meet the criteria of Mrs. Ford. We are the seller. I work for the seller. I am the extension of the seller. How many times I mentioned that on my platform that Wilhelmina is the extension of the seller? Wilhelmina was hired by the seller to promote Africa. I am not here to waste my time. I tell the world that Africa is the main source of precious mineral. I am here to educate those crook buyer. I call them crook because they're asking CIF cost, insurance, and freight. That kind of buyer is a poor guy. It doesn't matter if he has a private plane, I wouldn't believe it. I will only believe when the buyer show me a copy of his business registration. I would only believe when the buyer show me his importation license. I would only believe when the buyer show me his passport copy and the proof of fund, the value of what he's buying. I wouldn't buy any bullshit, excuse my language, any bullshit that the buyer has a private plane. Therefore, if the buyer has a private plane, he knows, he understands the business. He is crying, he's hungry of this precious mineral. He traveled to Africa, but he didn't get what he's looking for. He wouldn't. Why? The government would not allow any foreigner. I am a foreigner. I live in Australia. I am Australian, but I was born in the Philippines. My passport is Australian. So I have to educate you. Right? There is no way you apply to other country taking their property for not paying, for no documentation. You will be considered as a smuggler. You're gonna be considered as a thief. What happened? You are going to be in Calabos. What happened? Your private plane would be seized. You are trespassing into that particular country. When you bring your private plane, you need to register. We need to know who is your pilot. We need to know the copy of your plane registration. And the seller will notify the government that he has an investor, a big buyer, to come as a visitor with his or her private plane. Everything must be registered before you come into that particular country. You cannot just fly there knowing whom you are dealing with. You can fly to Africa, you just have a holiday because you own the plane. But whom you're dealing with? Because if you're gonna tell me that you have a private plane, I would like to scrutinize you. Yes? Because this business is a very dangerous business. Especially you, Mr. Buyer. You are going to be seized in the airport. There was an instant, a guy from South Africa. I saw the article, and he's the half brother of the ex-president of South Africa. He went to Conakry, and he brought his private plane. What happened in the airport when he downloaded boxes of gold? He was being seized in the airport. I saw the articles. I couldn't find. It was on my file. It was on the local newspaper in Conakry. His gold was being seized. Why? The documentation is not perfectly done. So when I saw that, When I saw that incident, immediately I inform my seller, do not cut corner. You need to provide your buyer a vital export documentation so that the buyer and you, Mr. Seller, would not encounter disaster the same as this gentleman from South Africa encountered disaster in Conakry. Now, Conakry is virgin. They have a huge deposit of bauxite, huge deposit of diamond, huge deposit of emerald, huge deposit of gold. It's virgin, right? And my seller owned this concession. My seller is not a cheap seller. My seller is a big company. I handle Mali. Mali has tons of gold. And you will never get the gold in Mali unless you are a buyer. Why? We don't sell SBLC. We don't entertain CIF cost insurance and freight. We don't. We don't entertain SBLC. We have the gold. Yes, we have. Can you show us? Can you convince Wilhelmina that you are certain a buyer? You need to convince Wilhelmina that you are really a buyer. Now, this video would be on my platform on my YouTube channel, and this video would be on my platform on Facebook. Whoever watched this video, take time. Don't rush. Don't. Read all the procedure paragraph by paragraph. Read it. Then digest it. Don't rush. Don't come to Wilhelmina until you understand. Because I put everything on this video, what necessary you are going to comply in order for us to believe that you are a buyer. It is on this video. Subscribe and click below. Okay, this is saying show more, click it. Then you read the extensive full corporate offer. Don't ask me how much is the price, because the price is not fixed. It's not. Whatever the price on the world market every day, we always give the buyer LBMA Less 8% tax included, except shipping cost, except insurance. Now, we are flexible. There is always room for negotiation on a big quantity. But a small quantity like 10 kilos, 20 kilos, we don't give in, because you are buying money to make money. So if you're a small gold trader, you need to have a capital. You cannot just buy 1 kilo. It's not worth it for you to travel. It's not. The minimum order, if you're really certain buyer, may I advise you, at least 20 kilos, at least, or even 10 kilos. But 10 kilos, you don't get much profit. Our selling price, less 8% tax included. We give you an incentive. Instead of paying taxes, you know how much tax in every bar? $4,000 in every bar. The tax, the government will tax it. The government will say, where is the tax payment of the buyer? So the seller will give you the price. The tax is already on the price. So you don't need to worry. You only worry to pay the logistic 1.5%, and you need to insure before the gold leave the country of origin. Now you're gonna say, well, Amina, I want to buy gold, no upfront. There is no upfront. You need to pay for it. This is F.O.B. The payment must be bank to bank. Now, Mr. Buyer, read first this full corporate offer in front of you. Do not come to Wilhelmina unless you understand, because I don't have time to explain. Now, I explain it very extensively. I put everything on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook. Read it, read thoroughly, relax, digest it. When you are ready, then you come for conference to ask a few questions. All question and answer is already on this video. Impossible you don't understand. Now to all joker broker, I just finished talking to this broker. He doesn't read. He was excited. He got my name and then he added me on WhatsApp. He doesn't even know how to introduce himself. And I asked him, how did you get my number? He said he went to my platform. And then he asked me, who am I? And I told him, don't you know who am I? You already found me. You already saw my platform. Therefore, you know who am I. You know who is Wilhelmina. Now, most of the joker broker doesn't like my guts. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a warning. Since 2011, I've been rejected thousands of fake buyers, joker broker as well. And then if they didn't meet the criteria, they're going to say, well, Amina is a scammer. I don't know how much I scam you guys. I don't have any idea. I live in Australia. I live comfortable. I am here to do business, to guide you, Mr. Buyer, because I know you have been duped before. I was been a victim in Ghana. I was being screwed in Ghana. Yes? The seller is idiot. Those idiot seller offer you cheap price, right? At the end of the day, you are also idiot. You are going to encounter disaster. Both of you are idiot. Why I call you idiot? You know that gold is not banana. You know you're buying precious, the world asset. This is the highest asset you are buying. Don't you know that gold has many uses? Don't you know that gold can make into wedding ring? Don't you know that gold can make into bracelet, necklace like this one? This is finished product. Don't you know? Then the gold can make into false state or figurines or a spoon or bicycle, or can be refined it into 99.99. You are buying raw materials in Africa. You are not buying refined, because the refined, whatever the price on the day, that is the price of the refined called gold bullion. Right? Why we give you 8%? Because when you resell it, when you make into jewelry or anything, you still get the profit. You're gonna say, well, Amina, I'm gonna buy gold from you, from your seller. I don't have any profit. Impossible. Impossible, you don't get profit. Whatever the price, then you sell it, instant you will get the price. In Dubai, most of the gold from Africa landed into Dubai. Why? Because Dubai is a hub. Dubai is a country that love gold. Go to gold sock. Where the gold coming from? Africa. I've been to gold sock. I've been to Africa. I've been to Dubai. I always stop over in Dubai. I purchased my husband's jewelry. Finished product is very expensive. Yeah, necklace. 97%, 23 carats. I paid $4,000. I don't have any complaint. And I paid VAT 5%. I was given a receipt, but when I returned to Australia, I claimed the VAT. The VAT of 5%, they return it back to my bank account. I don't have any complaint. And you are crook. I'm telling you, don't be offended because you are crook. Why you ask for CIF, cost insurance and freight? Are you going to launder? No, we don't give gold to launder. At the end of the day, you're going to be intercepted by the authority without export documentation. Yes. And you're going to say, I want to buy gold. No upfront. There is no upfront. You have to pay for it. And you need to travel in order to inspect your order. And you are using Wilhelmina's services. You must remember. My services is not free when I travel with you. I already given you free worth $1 million. Knowledge is very important. Right? So if you don't have the knowledge, you just float around thinking you make money, please stay away from this business. because this business is a very tricky business, I'm telling you. Right, this is very tricky, and you need to have a capital. You need to have a capital in order to make money. There's a saying, you buy this precious mineral to make money. You're buying money to make money. Gold is a solid money versus your paper money. There are three things in this business. Knowledge is very important. Number one is knowledge. Why you enter into business? Because you know that the gold is precious. That is knowledge. Knowledge is very important to know before you are buying this precious item. Understanding. You need to understand what you are reading. The FCO is in here. Wisdom is also very important. You need to comprehend. If you don't have the wisdom, therefore you don't know how to comprehend, please get out on this business. You are just roaming around thinking you make money. You would not make money unless the buyer is real. You would not make money unless the buyer convinces us, especially if you found my video on my YouTube channel and you go through on my platform on Facebook. I don't need to explain anymore. Why? The full corporate offer is already in front of you. Impossible you wouldn't understand. Impossible. Mr. Buyer, I'm going to recap. I know you've been searching for gold. You have been using a lot of joker broker. I called him joker broker. Why? I met them. I chatted with them. One broker said, well, Amina, I've been following you for 3 years. I never closed the deal. And I told him, you will never close the deal. Because the buyer that you've been dealing with, he's a fake buyer. Pretending to be a buyer. Thinking he make money. You cannot make money if you don't have money. Gold needs money. Your capital is paper money. We have the gold. I'm traveling soon. I just finished interviewing this buyer from Asia. He owned a jewelry manufacturer. And we have a live video call. And he interviewed me. This buyer have a contact in Asia. I'm not going to mention what particular buyer. This buyer just meet the criteria. I send the buyer mining license of the seller, export license of the seller, tax certificate from the seller, the map from the seller, the video presentation from the seller. Before I did send the contract and letter of confirmation to the buyer showed me his business registration. The buyer showed me his passport copy. The buyer showed me $1 million. He has more than $1 million. That is real buyer. Now, he's going to travel to Africa in order to get as a trial. I encourage him to get the trial because he doesn't know us and we don't know him. Even though I met him on live video call and I forwarded it to my head office was really impressed on how I interview the buyer. Now, this buyer would sign long-term contract. He's going to buy whatever the supply that my seller have in Africa. I would not mention what African country I'm going to take the buyer because some of the seller got jealous. I will just bring the buyer in the office, expect his order, excuse me. Then every week or every month he wanted 500 kilos. That is the kind of buyer. Now we don't entertain buyer that's, oh well, Amina, I'm in Conakry, I'm in Sierra Leone, I'm in Mali. What is the address of your seller? I'm not going to entertain you. You need to meet the criteria first. You're already on the ground and you didn't get the gold, meaning to say you're a cheap buyer. A real buyer, he would study, he would read the full corporate offer, and he would digest it before he make a decision. Where I get the buyer from? From my platform. Buyer search gold, my video pop up into your screen. I'm the only person who show my face. Most of you are hiding, especially joker broker. They hide their faces. They don't show their faces. This is a real business, my love. If you are a seller, whoever you are, you have to show. You don't need to hide your face because international buyer wouldn't believe it. The international buyer will believe because, well, Amina, this is my digital office. I'm based in Brisbane, Australia. I only travel with the buyer after I screen the buyer. Mr. Buyer, my services is not for free. When I travel with you, Mr. Buyer, yes, I do charge my extra service. Let's talk about how much I'm going to charge you. Okay, let's talk about it. You need to read first the full corporate offer. Then you come for conference. I want to see you video call. Exactly the same, this buyer from Asia. I'm not going to mention which country that the buyer is already meet the criteria. I just send the contract and they need the review. I'm waiting for the contract to be returned. I provide the history of my seller. I provide the mining license of the seller and the tax certificate of the seller. I'm not going to release that to anyone until I'm satisfied. I'm not, because the seller's vital information I wouldn't allow to float around to solicit buyer. Okay? This is the contract that I already sent to the buyer. This is the contract. Yeah. This is the contract. Without this, no, you wouldn't get gold from us. Yeah? This is the contract. I sent it. 17 pages. We put everything, and also the banking details of the seller, and also the history of the seller. The seller has 7 company. So I'm just showing you, Mr. Buyer, and also Joker Broker, right? This is the contract. Without my validation, you wouldn't get the gold. This is the contract that I already sent it. Right. This is the mining articles. Right. The company profile of the seller. Okay, I'm gonna show you the company profile. So this is how we gonna prove to the buyer, because the buyer already show his bank statement that he has more than $1 million. More than. He can afford 2 tons. He can afford 5 tons. He can afford. I can see his vital information. This vital information of the buyer is confidential, and the vital information of the seller would not float around to anyone. We will send the contract to the buyer directly. This is the contract, right? I just sent it last night. I work overtime because I make sure that the buyer will satisfied. This is 17 pages, right? And Mr. Buyer, you just running around, and most of the buyer from India, from Dubai, bring the gold to Dubai. We will pay after final asset to me. You're crook. You're crook. I know Dubai. I've been to Dubai many times. In fact, I interviewed the buyer in the bar and the restaurant. One POMI come to me. He said he's a buyer. He called me on Botim. When I invited him to come to see me in my hotel, we have a good lunch. He doesn't have the money to pay for lunch. It's charged to my room. That kind of buyer is very, very, very dangerous. Mr. Buyer, If you don't have a capital, please don't. Last night, before I close, because I open 7 days a week, right? And I close midnight because you have a time difference. The buyer called me. He was chatting with me 2 years. He is in Ghana right now. Mhm. He was asking me if I could help him. I said, no, I cannot help in Ghana. I used to have a seller in Ghana. I fired them all. Now, what he told me last night, this is for you, Mr. Buyer, if you're planning to go to Ghana, right? He said to me, he didn't realize that when you buy gold in Ghana, 20% the gold has to be deposited to the government before the government will give certificate of clearance. The government has changed. Not like 2011, it's easy to take the gold out of Ghana. Now, there are so many buyers stranded in Ghana, right? Last night, there was a buyer that he knows me. And he said, I'm in Ghana and I couldn't get the gold. But I told him, you were talking to the seller, right? Say, yes, but I was being deceived, Mrs. Ford. Oh, so he cannot. And I told him, remember, there's 14 refineries in Ghana. Why they're there? Because there is business. There are so many illegal activities in Ghana. The gold smuggled from Cameroon is in Ghana. Gold is smuggled from Liberia. Gold is smuggled from Sierra Leone. Okay? Gold is smuggled from Congo, border to border. Why? Because they thought they were talking to buyers that, oh, bring it to Ghana, we are a buyer. But what happened? When the gold arrived, you wouldn't get the gold. There was a time that I was in Ghana, 2013. There was a guy, he brought his gold nugget, and he was wearing nice suit. He came to see me with very nice suit, and he was begging me. He took a taxi, and he asked me to pay his taxi. And he said, I was being deceived, and I deposited my nuggets because I thought the buyer is real. Now the demurrage is ticking. So I told him, why you come to Wilhelmina and asking me to pay your taxes? He's a very executive looking. And I told him, my gosh, you should not come to this country. And he said, Madam, I was been assured that he is a buyer. The American buyer deceived this African seller. He brought the nuggets, and I told him, you should smelt the nugget into bar. And he was begging me, please, madam, the taxi is waiting for me. I said, my gosh, I'm not here to give you my money. I'm not here to be charitable. I'm not in charity foundation giving my money. So I feel sorry. I told him, okay, you have not have your breakfast. Okay, come down, have a breakfast in the restaurant, be my guest. And I give him 2,000 cedis. Ghana money, 2,000. That was 2013. So I told him, next time, don't be a fool. Don't believe on buyer. Don't. And he was being excited. I said, no, don't. Because buyers are liars. And also sellers are liars. Both buyers and sellers are liars. Yeah. It doesn't matter if he is my seller. That is the reason why I always mention to my YouTube channel and Facebook, do not travel without Wilhelmina. Because African sellers is hard to deal with. But if I'm with you, because I already scrutinize you, and the seller will believe you, because I'm gonna be with you. If there is an issue on the ground, I can find a backup. I always warn my seller, if the buyer is with me, and if the buyer is not satisfied, I have a backup. I have so many sellers crying for my services. But Africa, they are envy, they get jealous. One time I was in Africa last year, One of my sellers says, "Well, Amina, you're talking to other sellers." I said, "Yes, I'm meeting them all because I want to help. I want to rectify their mistake because sellers in Africa, they're excited. This is not an excitement business. Why does the company hired me? Because I have experience. I've been in marketing for 36 years. I used to be in real estate, my love. Buying and selling exactly the same. You need to have the money. You need to have a contract. Yeah, you need to have a contract. That is why I put everything on my platform. You don't need to ask the procedure. You don't need to ask FCO because on my platform, even here on this video, it says FCO, full corporate offer. You need to read. Did you go to school? Why you cannot read it? Just like this guy, a broker. He just get my number. And I told him, go back and read. Because if you're not reading, my question is, did you really go to school? Yeah. Because if I'm a professor today, I'm going to flunk you. I'm going to give you F. Why? You're paying the tuition fee and you didn't pay attention. You're going to pay Wilhelmina when I travel with you. Yes. Yes. I'm not going to entertain you if you're on the ground. No. I need to be with you from the beginning to the end in order for you to get the supply. And do not go behind my back. Do not. Just like this husband and wife. They go behind my back. They flew to Africa. What happened? Disaster. They were being offered to pay taxes. And the gold didn't arrive in Dubai. There is no way you can get the gold pay taxes. The government will not give you a certificate of clearance that the gold is free of illegal activities. You're asking CIF, meaning to say you are going to launder, meaning to say you are going to smuggle, meaning to say you are going to leverage. That is syndicate. Do not be involved in syndication. Seller can offer you that. Don't be blind. Don't be a fool. The seller offer you pay taxes. Don't. There is no way that the offer 35 or 40, that is only to trap you. Believe me, listen to this woman. This woman is your savior. You have been duped before. I was being scammed in Ghana when I was handling my seller. My seller in Ghana, they are crooked. Their mentality is crooked. Ghana is a nice country, but the people, the seller who live in Ghana are crook. Don't be angry whoever watched my video because I was a victim in Ghana. I was being scammed big time. The lady from Ghana, she's a scammer, and also my seller. Yes. So don't be a fool, Mr. Buyer, because you and me are a victim. That's why I don't want to touch Ghana. Ghana is a beautiful country. They are in progress, but the government has changed. So don't ask me, Madam, I'm in Ghana, find me a seller. No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all. We have the gold in Conakry. Dubai and Conakry one stop. Emirates fly twice a week, Thursday and Friday. We have tons of gold in Mali. We have tons of gold in Sierra Leone. But I'm not going to entertain you when you are on the ground because I don't. You are there. There was an American guy from New York. He knows me. He flew to Sierra Leone. He didn't get the gold. And also one guy from Holland, he met me in Ghana. He met me in Dubai at Gibora's hotel when I was staying. He flew to Sierra Leone. When I sent him a message, he said, Sierra Leone, full of scammer. And I told him, don't you know the meaning of scam means? You were being deceived by the seller and you deceive yourself. He didn't get the gold. Another buyer flew to Mali. Again, he didn't get the gold. Husband and wife went to Conakry, didn't get the gold. Why? They were being offered cheap price. Another American stranded in Dubai for 3 years. He went to Kampala thinking he will get the gold. The gold didn't arrive in Dubai. He was being asked to pay taxes. For 35 kilos. He only gave the seller $10,000. And I told him it wouldn't work because in Kampala, the tax is a little bit higher. Sales tax. That is an income of the country. So he was being stranded in Dubai for 3 years. He was homeless. I feed this guy because he become friendly with Mrs. Ford. He come to my hotel and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and he asked me money to pay taxes. I'm very kind and generous. One of my lady friend, she said to me, "Why are you helping this guy?" I said, "It's okay. My heart is full of gold." Right. And then when I left Dubai, I arrived in Australia. He was homeless. He was staying at Starbucks. He said, "Madam, I'm here in Starbucks." He called me 1 o'clock Australian Standard Time. "Madam, I'm hungry. I'm here in Starbucks. I just get the access to say hello to you." I already knew it. And I told him, "What is the problem? You know, I'm starving. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I just drink water." I said, "Really?" And I told him, "You better go back home. Contact your embassy." So I sent him $450. My husband didn't like it. And I said to my husband, God says, when I'm hungry, you give me to eat. When I'm thirsty, you give me to drink. I'm a Catholic. I'm a traditional Catholic. My heart, I feel sorry for this American guy. So he has $450 and he was happy. He said, "Thank you." And he said he will pay me back. He didn't pay me back. Another Filipina, she went to Nairobi, stranded for 12 months. She asked for help. I sent her money, $350. She said she will pay me back. She didn't. And her boyfriend, a Nigerian, paid her airfare to come home to us, to Philippines. Now she's in Dubai. I don't know what she's doing in Dubai. I saw her on her TikTok. I don't know, maybe she is selling her flesh. Maybe. And she said she's gonna pay me back. She didn't. I'm just sharing you, Those joker broker hates my guts. And they said, "Oh, well, Amina is a scammer." You're a stupid guy. I don't know how much I scam you. I don't have any idea. To all scammer broker, you hate my guts, that's all. You are one of the scammer, not me. So that's it. And there was a American Filipino. She was in Africa, and another American Filipino. He is also in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, male and female, they travel to Africa. And then when he cannot find the gold, they search on YouTube, they found these tough ladies. I'm the only person who put my beautiful face. Yes. And according to one of the gentlemen from Western Australia, was saying to me, "I was been following you, Mrs. Ford, for 4 years. When you mentioned that you used to be in real estate," and he said, "You are real." When I mentioned to him, when he called me that I used to be in real estate and we promote property investment in Singapore, and he was there during those time, and he works with a big company, real estate company, and he knows my seller, my real estate company. I am a negotiator. The company hired me to list the vendors, the property. I negotiate. That is why the company in Africa found me. Where he gonna found me? On my website, because here in Australia, when you sell property, I have my personal website. exactly the same that you found me. This is my personal. The seller says to me, Wilhelmina, please handle us because we've been sick and tired dealing with fake buyers as well. Can you imagine that? Africa is the main source. 98% of gold coming from Africa. Right? But I'm not going to talk too much. Mr. Buyer, read it, comprehend. Then when you are ready, just read it, comply what necessary you are going to convince Wilhelmina. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant good evening. Once again, you don't ask what is the price. Whatever the price of the day, less 8% tax included. Take it or leave it. You can have the gold from us.